If you are a person who, like me, feels we live in a world that is poised on the knife's edge between promise and menace, and don't want to cave in or be overwhelmed by the despair that can come from the menace, but also don't want to take cheap promise or false hope, uh, I would recommend you pick up a copy of Art Stevens' book, Let's Dance with God, because it talks with unflinching honesty and from deep experience about how to live in the midst of challenge as opportunity and to feel that you're never in that alone. There is divine accompaniment. However, you might understand the source of life, the wellspring of love that informs life if we open to it, however you understand that, if you are working to deepen your relationship with that as part of your effort to live a good life as you understand it. This is a book written by someone who has spent decades upon decades in that very journey and asking how to translate a personal relationship with the divine into a life well lived in the world that can help make the community or communities you're a part of more effective, more giving, more a reflection of what, at least from the Christian perspective, we would say would be God's image within us. So this book can be a great companion and a guide on that journey. I say that to start with on the basis of 40 years of deep friendship with Art Stevens. He and I met our first semester in seminary, became deep friends and spiritual companions. Art, in his experience and wisdom, helped guide me in ways that when my relationship with God felt really shaky, and more importantly, in some ways, my relationship with the world around me felt shaky, he helped me go deeper and deeper and find that there's always this loving support available if I will simply take the time to be still and listen, to surrender my ego needs, my sense of the way things should be and should happen, to the deeper spiritual guidance that's there if I were willing to, in a disciplined, open, and joyful surrender, invite God in and listen to that guidance. Art Stevens has lived a life of that. And so, because I'm someone who likes to know whose company I'm keeping and also have a sense of the larger context, I would invite you to consider, once you get this book, that you start with chapter 7 and 8, because that is Art's mini autobiography within the book. You will get to know who this human being Art Stevens is, and you'll discover that while he is intellectually brilliant, it's his heart that really distinguishes him, that he listens to his heart and through his heart listens deeply to God's messages in the world. To read of someone who has authentic visions that help guide him and through him help guide the communities he's a part of. That's not to say that, wow, this is some great saint, because Art would be the first person to say he's not. But he's someone who takes seriously the recognition that we are made in the image and likeness of an all-loving God. And our responsibility is, first of all, to return that love that we receive from God, to return it to God, and not just in abstract ways, but very particularly by loving ourselves, by loving others, including the whole of God's magnificent creation, which we as humans have done a great deal to despoil. And we're at a critical point. It's time to let our belief in a loving God who built that love into everything that is, to let that God guide us over human greed, over senses of division, into something that looks more and more like what, for instance, the great civil rights leaders like John Lewis and Martin Luther King often referred to as the beloved community. Looked at from one perspective and experienced from one perspective, Art's book is a guidebook about how we can be active participants in building the beloved community that reflects God's will here on earth as we believe it is in reality in heaven. Whether you are on your own spiritual journey and that's enough, or for instance, you're part of a church or a nonprofit organization that is trying to figure out how to make your way in these challenging times, how to take what seem to be huge problems, challenges that can overwhelm you, and convert them into opportunities, how you can take issues that might divide and find ways to see the authenticity of different perspectives, and together to find a shared wisdom that is far greater than any individual wisdom, together to find a way that instead of having winners and losers, there's a sense that we are all moving forward as winners for the greater good of the whole. This is a book that's filled with deep spiritual insight and a tremendous amount of practical guidance, including very detailed processes for discernment. If you're part of a group that's trying to figure out how to take a next step at an important point in your group's life, Art has a roadmap. It's not something that says, this is exactly how you have to do things. It's an invitation to a process that draws out the best and deepest individual and collective wisdom people have. So I would recommend this book so highly. It's a book not just to read once, or as is often the case in this day and age, to skim quickly through. It's a book which, as we say in the Episcopal Church, we should read, mark, learn, and inwardly digest, to have it as a book you can go back to experience an insight at a deeper level. It's a book that has the capacity to change your life for the better, to change your community for the better. And in the way our Buddhist wise people say, you take a cup of water out of the ocean and everything is changed forever. Learning from this book and putting the insights of it into practice can help you be part of a movement of taking cups of water out of the ocean that will help change everything for the better and forever. Thank you.